Okay, hi everybody. My name is Jim Looney, and this is my CS6460 final project presentation. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the motivation for doing this project, and then I will give you a demo of the actual project itself, the product itself. So first things first, my experience with this project started in actually my own classroom. I'm a high school computer science teacher, and what any computer science teacher will tell you is that students have a lot of trouble learning programming, especially early on, and the research supports this idea as well. Learning programming is difficult. It's a brand new way of thinking for a lot of students. It's not taught well, especially in intro classes in colleges. The traditional lecture model does not work well for programming, and that's oftentimes what's used. And there are just not a lot of supports available in many cases for students. There's a lecture which isn't conducive to personalized attention. And then there are problem sets where students are theoretically learning the concepts, but it's difficult. Other than office hours, there aren't many opportunities for individualized attention. Personalized learning does help, according to the research. Anytime you can personalize attention and learning for students, it helps them. But it isn't scalable because again, this traditional model, anytime one student is working one-on-one with an instructor, then that takes time away from other students being able to work with that instructor. So there are all sorts of products out there already that try to kind of get at this difficulty in learning programming. Codecademy and other online interactive tutorials exist to be able to help students learn the mechanics of a language. There also are full-fledged intelligent tutoring systems, more so for subjects like math rather than computer science, but those are also expensive in their own way. They require a lot of setup and maintenance that is sometimes cost prohibitive. And other computer science courses have tried to change either the sequence or the structure of the course. Some courses have tried teaching problem solving first and then applying it to the language constructs rather than the other way around, which seems to help. And some courses have made it a point to provide as much personalized and individualized attention to students in their first year as possible. So what I wanted, though, was a tool that would kind of solve all of those problems and make it easier for beginner students, to learn programming. So what I decided to build was a web app that would evaluate student code and provide feedback that would be instantaneous, so students would be able to get feedback right away without having to wait for a teacher. It would be formative. In other words, students could get feedback on an assignment, but it wouldn't be assigning them a grade. It would just be for their own benefit to be able to help them learn and work through problems. I decided the feedback should also be high level, because that's one of the main complaints that I've seen about Codecademy and other tutorials like it, is that those tutorials are about learning the language constructs and less so about learning problem solving. And so what I wanted was a tool that would help students learn what the research has shown is most difficult for them, which is things like control flow, branches and loops, and the sequence of programs. So that's why I emphasized that in the web app that I built. It would also provide feedback that's personalized, so every student might get a different piece of feedback depending on where they are. And it's also scalable, so that, like we said, students don't have to wait for an individual teacher to come over to them. They can access the tool from wherever and whenever they want. And if we think about things like MOOCs and online courses, this would be a tool that could be used in those settings too. Okay, so I'm going to show you a demo of the actual product. And here it is. It's hosted on, I have it hosted on AWS. And this is the way the site looks. It has a drop-down that allows students to choose which assignment that they're working on that they would like feedback on. And then what the student does is paste in their code that they've developed so far. And then when they click check, it'll give them some targeted feedback. So as a few examples, this first assignment here is one that I use in my intro computer science class. It's a hangman game. And all these are written in Python. I decided to use Python because it's a common language for introductory programmers. So if I click check, here it says the conditionals, in terms of conditionals, it looks good. But in terms of loops, the solution code has more loops. So in other words, the student's missing some sort of piece that needs to be iterated. And in this case, it's the main loop that runs the whole program over and over again to allow the user to keep guessing letters. So in this other example, it has a loop, but it's missing the condition to check to see whether the user guesses the letter correctly, and sure enough it says the solution code has more conditionals than your code, and we're missing some conditions. So then if I combine the two, I can paste in the missing conditional into this version, and then if I check, now it says they both look good. Okay, next assignment, and this is one that asks students to give a series of conditionals, just a quick little program, okay, and then if we click check, it says the solution code has more conditionals, we're missing one branch, so then if I paste in the correct code, now that says it looks good. Okay, this next one is an event-driven loop. So if the student does an if statement rather than a loop, I'll switch this to the next assignment, and that will tell them that it has the solution has fewer conditionals, so they have an extra conditional, and they need a loop. So then if I do the correct version, and then it'll say it looks good. Okay, this next one, this would be if the student has too many loops in their code. It says the conditions are fine, but there's too many loops. How about if there's an extra if statement? If there's an extra if statement, same thing. The solution code has fewer conditionals, but the loops are fine. Okay, and then lastly, here's a case where the student is missing an else statement from a conditional. Again, it says the solution code has more conditional branches. And then if I do missing an if statement altogether, it says you'll need an if statement in order to distinguish between two things. Okay, thanks so much for watching. That's my project. And if you'd like to test it out yourself, feel free to navigate to the site. And if you access this video from the slides, on the last slide I have a link to both the sample test cases and to the app itself. Thanks again.